As the end of Dr. Sabine Haag's tenure of Director General of the Kunsthistorisches Museum nears, we'd like to seize the opportunity to sit down and have a little chat and walk down memory lane. In this video series, Sabine Haag is going to recount her personal highlights and the most memorable moments of her 16 years at the helm of this cultural institution. Join us as we browse through the director's diary. I think it's only fitting that we start this series talking about the Kunstkammer, since that's where it all began. You started as a curator of the Kunstkammer in 1990 and then also became its director. At the beginning of your career, did you ever imagine that you would end up at the helm of this institution?
No, certainly not. This is nothing you can plan. I studied art history and also doing my diploma in Vienna. And I remember that walking by the Kunsthistorisches Museum at one day with my sister, I said at one stage I would like to work for the Kunsthistorisches Museum. This would be my dream. And then after graduating, I really got the first contract here at the museum, at the Kunstkammer and the treasuries. And ever since then, I just started working here in the museum with passion and, of course, with expertise, gaining expertise. And I have to say, I had the best colleagues to learn from. And and as you mentioned, in my later career, I became director of those collections, and this was my dream job. And I did, of course, not dream that there would even be a further step in my career, becoming Director General of this museum.
Okay, so that must have been a nice surprise coming later then.
Oh yes, but I've been working hard for this.
Of course.
But I got the biggest reward I could ever think of.
But it still must be quite daunting to take on such a big role. Do you remember your start as Director General?
Yes, I do. Of course, I had like 6 months preparing before I finally started on January 1st of 2009. And I remember like the first days were really, wow, what's coming up now? And of course, you know, when you start on the 2nd of January, most of the staff is on vacation. So I just got acquainted with, you know, I would say with my new role. I started walking around on the various locations of the KM Museumsverband, and of course I was forming my team, and I was so grateful to draw back on a fantastic team from my predecessor, and of course the work he had done before, and it was just very, very exciting, and every day was new.
So of course the Saliera is one of the, I would say, most well-known pieces or objects in the Kunstkammer. It was stolen in 2003 and then discovered and returned 3 years later, and you were also a part of its examination and restoration. What was that process like?
Well, first of all, it was probably one of the most traumatizing, but also rewarding moments in my museum's life, in all our museums' life, when the Saliera was stolen on Mother's Day 2003. I remember that, and also when it came back. And in the time between, we had no idea what has happened to the Saliera. We were quite afraid that it was melted down or something like this. So when it was recovered and I was the one to unpack it, we were just very much relieved that the damage was very, very minor, you know, when you looked at it, but of course we knew we had to restore it, we had to do some conservation work, and this of course is always the same when you work with objects, is with utmost attention, with utmost expertise. It's teamwork, you bring together all the expertise, and then of course you had to have to have someone to lead the whole process, and that was quite exciting. And the final step, I would say, for me, is when I could place the Saliera in the new showcase during this new the process of the refurbishment of the galleries in 2013. This was really for me the final process and the final moment, which was just a very emotional moment, and for me an utmost triumph, I also have to say.
Your area of expertise is sculpture, and more specifically we will focus on amber and ivory artworks. What sparked your interest in that specific field, and are there any objects you'd like to highlight that maybe don't get enough love from our visitors?
Don't ask a mother about your favorite child. But how did I get to sculpture? Well, I studied art history, focusing on painting, but when I got this job at the museum, when I came to work as a curator at the Kunstkammer, it was obvious that I would switch to sculpture. and I still had to do my PhD, my doctoral thesis, which I picked to do on our ivory sculpture, on our ivory collection. And the reason why I focused on this was I just fell in love immediately with the collection, with the material. It's so soft, it's so sensuous, it's just very, very special. And of course, it's of highest quality, and we have the best collection of ivory sculptures worldwide, Baroque ivory sculptures, and this was such a privilege to work with this. At that time I could really have them quite near to me, and when I did cataloging and did my research on it, that was really a very intimate dialogue. And of course my love just grew immediately, and it's been a love ever since.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that it's an ongoing love story still.
Oh yes, it is. You will see.
So thank you so much for sitting down with us today. For the next episode, we're going to be traveling over to the bridal room and talking more a little bit about his artworks and the major exhibition that we had here not too long ago. Thank you.